Goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Codington, joined by my fellow co-hosts and filmmakers, John and Lane Woolscroft.
And that's when I told the ATF that she was dead when I got there. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm finishing up a conversation.
Oh, okay.
Earlier. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you need some
Who'd
help?
you kill?
Yeah. No, she was dead when I got there.
Okay.
Interesting.
Check out the Dateline. It's going to premiere in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Seriously, who's going to play you? Or the murder porn, on Investigation.
We love
Discovery.
murder porn.
Everybody does.
Mark Cuban's going to play me, actually.
Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
No, quit saying that. You're way better looking than Mark Cuban.
Yeah, he kind of has a weird face.
It's like the shape of his head. It's upsetting.
It's
He's like a Frankenhead.
Cylindrical head.
He always also has that face that looks like somebody farted in an elevator. Like, just like...
He does. Well, that's because he's trying to see if he wants to spend his billions of dollars on these morons that have some kind of weird invention.
On Shark Tank? Did we just do a Shark Tank plug?
I didn't mean to. John wants to be on Shark Tank so bad, but all of his ideas are garbage.
Look, cigarettes for dogs is a good idea.
He wants to make fleshlights for dogs too.
Doggy fleshlights.
He's really.
And you should just call them Red Rockets.
Yeah, there you go.
He's trying to corner
Pocket
the
rockets.
dog market.
Well, guys, we ended with Tink and her stink last week, and now we're talking about dog flashlights.
Yeah.
They know what they signed up for.
Market quality.
What happened to this show?
We're
We used to be a
marked as adult.
classy show.
It's
That's not true.
explicit marked for a reason.
Exactly.
It's
They were
explicit
warned.
for a reason.
They were warned.
So, we're on episode 144, and this week we are continuing our conversation about Stevie Spielberg. Stevie Spielberg.
Stevie Spiels.
Part 2.
I like to call him Alan. Alan
And
Spielberg.
what segment of his work are we looking at this week, John?
So we are going to be from 93 until 2019.
Wow.
Wow.
It's a gap
Yeah.
there. Big gap.
And guys, before we
It
just
is.
jump back into his catalog, I thought we should just start the show with a little appetizer. I think just a little couple of
all right.
quick fun Stevie facts.
Stevie facts, huh?
Yeah, these are what I call Stevie facts.
Okay.
He is an avid collector, and he has one of the sleds from Citizen Kane.
The Rosebud?
Yeah, well, I mean, they used a couple of sleds, so he has one of the
Wow.
sleds.
Wow.
He has, must be a huge Orson Welles fan. He has the copy of the script that Orson Welles used for the War of the Worlds radio broadcast.
Wow.
This is what happens when you're worth 3.7
I was going to say,
billion.
that's not something you'd be like, well, I got it on eBay for $5.
Yeah, I found it. Yeah.
I found it. It's like, no. You used your rich man money for that.
He purchases other people's Oscars that are on the open market, like people that hit hard times and sell their Oscars, and then they go to 5 different owners. He eventually buys those and gives them back to the Academy because he's a Boy Scout.
Why couldn't he just buy them and then give the money and the Oscar back to the person who's on hard times?
Well, it's usually Elizabeth Taylor who is.
But I you know what I mean. You could be a nice person and just buy him, give him money, and say, "Here, I want you to keep the Oscar."
Brian, when you have a yacht that holds 12 and 20
Oh, that's
crew,
right.
and you're
That's
building
right.
a new one because it's
That's
too
right.
small.
I forgot.
I'm starting to think
He's still a rich asshole.
I'm starting to think Stefan's a little out of touch with us ordinary folks who might.
We're going to get to a little bit of how out of touch he is, especially when it comes to modern filmmakers in a bit.
Well, speaking out of touch, he has 53 Norman Rockwell originals.
What?
Of course he does.
That's what happens when you have too much money. That's
course he
too
does.
much money.
And did you guys know that he is an avid gamer?
You told me that. I only
Really?
know that because of you.
He
Really?
loves video games. And if you are in the market for a Steven Spielberg game, you could get Steven Spielberg's director's chair, a PC game that came out in 1996.
Oh, shit. I
Oh my
remember
God,
that.
I forgot about that.
I remember that one.
Oh my God.
Oh, shit.
But, so just a little bit of a little couple Steven nuggets.
Steven Nuggets.
Yeah. Couple of nugs that Steven could drop for us.
Steaming piles of Steven Nuggets.
Steven nuggets. Yeah.
Steven Nuggets. Now, is that like Steven McNuggets?
No.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
It's pink. and on the inside.
Pink on the inside?
We're all pink on the inside.
Isn't that your like Twitter handle?
Yeah, yes, it is.
It's his Twitter bio.
Oh shit.
But yeah, we ended with Hook last time, which I got a lot of flack for. By the way.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
People
He
were
doesn't
not
make
happy
any.
about my.
He
opinions
doesn't
on
make
Hook.
any friends with that
attacked
opinion.
You? Who attacked you?
A couple of people, some people on Twitter, and a couple of my Facebook friends were not.
They were like, "Fuck you, Hook is great."
Yeah.
Did they not realize that the pixie wanted to fuck Peter?
Well, I don't see why that's a problem if she's an adult pixie and it's all consensual.
But I'm just saying, like, I didn't realize this until I watched it again. I'm like, holy shit.
Well, what do you think that Fimble's for? Is when she was little.
Oh, can you not?
Oh, here you go, Tink. I'm gonna give it to you good.
I'll give you a kiss with my dick.
The thing is, Tinkerbell would unleash that hog, and it'd be covered in hair because he's Robin Williams, and be like, "Never mind, I'm gonna go get Rufio."
Yucky.
But yeah, so we left off on Hook, and
I'm surprised that you got a lot of flack for that. Yeah. I think most people would have realized that
a lot of people have some major nostalgia for that movie. I feel.
Yeah, I wish that we could like somehow wipe our minds like in Eternal Sunshine and just like watch Hook as adults. I guarantee we'd be like, this isn't very good.
I've only ever seen it as an adult, so I have zero nostalgia for that movie.
I have nostalgia for it, but at the same time, like when you rewatch it as an adult, you realize, oh, I mean, visual effects are great, and I mean, set design is great, but story not so much.
Oh yeah, and you get that a lot of times with Spielberg, where like the scenery is beautiful. You get that with Tim Burton too, quite a bit. I mean,
not so much anymore. It's starting to to wear thin.
We're
when
like
Disney
used
bought
to
him
it
and
now.
CGI did too.
Yeah,
but watch Sleepy Hollow on mute, and you'll be like, "This is a really great movie." On mute.
On mute is the operative phrase.
But we're coming into the 90s, so we're jumping ahead into the second half of his career.
Yeah,
and I'm very excited that we are starting with Jurassic Park.
Oh my god!
Yeah, that's
what form for Stevie.
Is that what most people think of when they think of Steven Spielberg, or do you think E.T.?
It depends.
Jaws, Raiders, E.T.
Yeah,
Jurassic Park. Yeah.
I think also to some degree, some of his other more like Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, that's true.
That and Schindler's List.
Right.
It depends. I think
Schindler's List is hard to watch. Like if you're like,
it's hard for me to watch.
I imagine
it's extremely difficult for me to watch,
which we will get to very shortly here. But with Steven Spielberg, you're like, E.T. because you think of the movies that if they're on like TBS, you're gonna watch.
Yeah. I think he is a very diverse filmmaker, in that he is able to tackle different styles of filmmaking, the different types of genres you get. Except for comedy, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jurassic Park, man, oh man, hell of a film. Like, really blows you out of the fucking water. And I know for me, I saw Jurassic Park in a movie theater in Iowa when I lived there as a kid. And it was one of those theaters where, like, it's like you have a restaurant in the theater.
Oh, yeah.
So
I've been to a few.
So
it was,
cool.
and then, like, they would serve you food at the, while you would sit at a table. And the movie's playing. And I'd never been in anything like this before. But I was blown away by, the dinosaurs and the story itself. This movie basically revolutionized computer graphics in film.
For better or worse.
I'd say this is a perfect balance of what you can do with practical and what you can do with CG.
Oh, yeah.
Because they did amazing amounts of practical stuff in this.
The Triceratops, I think, is the best example of the puppetry.
Yes.
That's incredible.
And
T-Rex. What they were able to do with both. And I'm with you, Brian. I think it should be both CGI and practical.
Well, they did what was best for each shot. Like, when the Velociraptors, that scene in particular, when they enter the room that Timmy and Lex are in, excuse me, it's CGI because it's a wide shot of them entering. When they have shots of like the legs chasing after Tim and it's between the legs of the Velociraptor, those are just puppet legs.
Right.
They did what was right for each scene.
Right.
I think the CGI that they use in the film is only like 4 minutes.
It's very minimal.
Well, and think about what that means for the rest of the film, because I would I would say to anyone that this movie completely holds up even now.
Absolutely.
Don't at me. Like it completely still looks right. It's aged appropriately. It still holds up. And I think that's because, again, like I think the lessons learned with Jaws and Bruce, I think that he learned like less is more. Let's do a little for maximum effect.
I don't think he was less is more on this. I think it was more like, I'm going to get the puppets right. Like I'm going to get them right where I want to use them. But I've got this new tool called CGI. Let's see what we can do. Because even though, this movie revolutionized, CGI in film, as you said, John, it is very minimal. And that's because they only had so much computing power. They could only get so close to the dinosaurs.
Right.
You could get photorealism if they're far away. Because the audience isn't going to be paying attention to every single scale on the dinosaur. And that's why they use, especially in those close-up scenes, realistic puppets.
Yeah.
Because you can replicate, with an artist's level.
Or robotics, too.
Or robotics as well.
Yeah, that's true.
If you've never seen this, treat yourself to the T-Rex, because when it got wet, it would start to break down and shiver and shake.
Yeah.
Like it was dancing to some kind of like club beat only it could hear.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you can find that on YouTube. But that this film is responsible for the prequels, right? Of Star Wars.
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Well, the thing is...
Oh, that's right, because that son of a bitch saw, look what I can do with my computers.
Oh my God, we're just going to continue our shitting on George Lucas.
Yes, we are.
Fat bearded pussy, or George Lucas.
I mean, by this time he was starting to get a little bit pudgy.
Yeah. So yeah, the thing is, Spielberg left this movie immediately to go make Schindler's List, which he did not. So he did not do any of the post-production
really
on this film. He gave the reins over to George Lucas to edit this movie. And when they were doing all the CGI, he said to himself, "Now's the time. Now I can make Phantom Menace or whatever." Probably it was Star Wars: The Chronicles of Anakin Part 8.
No, that's not it at all. That is not it at all. He didn't have a fucking story in his head on this shit, okay? Everyone who says, he had a master plan. No, there's no master plan.
No.
There was none. It was just called, hey, you know what? I could probably rake in some more money by making some prequels now, and now that I've got some technology, I can do that.
Yeah.
No plans.
Let me come up with a story. Let me throw some Darth Maul in there. Jar Jar Binks.
And the thing is, those guys are all very bitter towards each other. I call them the CGI boys. Robert Zemeckis, Spielberg, George Lucas, and James Cameron. And most of them are friends.
They're
very
Are they
bitter.
frenemies?
Frenemies, yeah. I think that's a good
frenemies. I like that.
Look what I can do with my technology. Look what I can do. I made the Polar Express. Oh, yeah, I made Avatar. Whoa, look at my penis.
I was going to say, they literally just...
Look at my penis.
Whipping out their micro penises, just saying which one is an inch long.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
I need a magnifying glass, Mr. Cameron. I can't see it.
Let me CGI to enhance.
Let me find the right puppet.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
But, what works so well with this movie, I think, is not, like, the dinosaurs in effect, but the characters are good, and the actors are good.
Yeah.
Like, you fall in love with these characters, and, like, it's a classic narrative arc. Like, you look at, Dr. Grant doesn't like kids. He gets stuck with the kids. He finds, like, his journey through the story to be a giver and a caregiver, in that scene where he drops the
not
raptor
like
claw.
Threaten children.
Yeah, well, he drops the raptor claw in the movie because that's what he used to like threaten a child with, and when he's protecting the kids, he drops it. Like, there are very good storytelling things, and he had Michael Crichton write the screenplay. In fact, he bought the rights to the book before the book was ever published.
Really?
Yeah, he got a copy of it and was like,
"Nerd alert!
I'm gonna make a dinosaur movie." Wait, him or me?
Oh no, him. Not you.
Him.
Not you. Him.
Yeah.
Not right now. I'm sure
not
later.
yet. Yeah, maybe
I'm
later.
Sure later.
But yeah, and it turned out to be basically the '90s Jaws. Like that book was
fair.
humongous.
Yeah.
And it was a smart ploy by him, and play by him, I should say. But yeah, he got the book, and Michael Crichton wrote the screenplay, which I think was a huge help.
Well, I think the other thing that made this really successful is that there wasn't really a big name attached to this movie.
Not really.
Because I mean, and Sam O'Neill, I mean, he's great, but like
Sam Neill.
Sam Neill, that's right.
Yeah.
As John likes to joke, his biggest claim to fame at this point was chasing Nicole Kidman around a boat for 2 hours.
Trying to rape her, yeah.
Yeah. Because he played a bad guy in another movie.
And it's a yacht, like not Spielberg's yacht, because it's not that big.
Oh, no.
But the thing is, it's a yacht, so I'm like, how can you not chase her down?
I mean, he also played, an FBI agent trying to chase Chevy Chase as an invisible man.
Oh, my. Let's not and say we did. Anyway, but I think, Sam Neill wasn't, like the typical leading man.
No.
And Laura Dern, I don't think was like the typical leading lady, but they carry this show. I think that they both are super believable and credible. And also, good actors, like they're in something very fantastical and bring a lot of reality and a lot of, groundedness to the plot.
Yeah, definitely.
And, and of course we had Sir Richard Attenborough.
Oh, yeah, Sir Richard. And then, of course, the Goots.
Him and his yellow
Or not
teeth.
the Goots, the golden bloom.
The golden bloom. The plumage.
The bloom.
Yeah. And Richard Attenborough, who beat him for Best Director with Gandhi over Color Purple. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. He had actually retired from acting, and Spielberg coaxed him into being in this movie.
I think he's definitely got, like, in my opinion, Richard Attenborough has the soul of the film. Like, I've always believed, like Sam Neill and Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum, they kind of exist in this world that his character really, embodies.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you see, like, always in the sequels to this film, which are not really that great, he's always pulled back in to some degree.
Yeah.
They're always pulling that. Like, I think their most recent one, they had, like, a statue to him.
Well, yeah, no. Well, in Jurassic World 2 or whatever they call it, Fallen Kingdom, I don't know.
Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, Goldblum's paycheck. They said like, oh, Dr. John Hammond always believed in keeping these animals safe. Like, no, he fucking didn't.
No, he didn't. He wanted to profit off of them.
This guy was P.T. Barnum meets Dr. Frankenstein.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
he wanted to build a amusement park with dinosaurs. Okay, he wanted money.
yeah, he wanted to have his giant flea circus because he was full of himself. He put his grandchildren in danger because he couldn't see past his hubris.
It's true.
I just find it hilarious. Like, hey, let me invite the grandkids over. They're our target market.
Yeah.
By the way, I haven't tested any of this stuff.
Nobody would actually do that. Like, I would find it more believable if he hadn't tested it and wanted someone else's kids or grandkids. Like, you wouldn't do that on your own family.
Yeah. Well, the lawyers are there to be like, we need to make sure this park is safe or we're shutting you down. And it's like, oh, by the way, I've invited 2 precocious 8 and 11-year-olds. Like,
by the way, they're going to join you to make sure the park's all good. And by the way, like, we've never had any guests here, so shit could happen. I mean, Jesus Christ. The new roller coaster at Kennywood.
Yeah.
The
steel curtain. Yeah. It like broke down in its first week. And needed repairs its first week. You got fucking dinosaurs all over the place.
Right.
And you never tested any of this stuff? Yeah, it's going to
lubed up the gears with pierogi grease. You ain't gotta leave them up.
I always thought that it was basically a Permani sandwich just fell on, like, the chain that leaves you up.
Yeah. Surprise, fell out.
My Permanis fell all over the place.
But you know who I think is the real hero of this movie, and then we'll move on, is Dennis Nedry.
Oh, okay.
No,
All right.
I have a
What's your
here.
theory? What's
Okay.
your theory?
So this park was always doomed to fail because he was basically responsible for the IT, the security, the animal containment. One guy, John Hammond, was so cheap, he tried to run all of this through one person.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is, it failed, and when there were only a few people in the park. Now, basically what he saved John Hammond from was the park having 400 people in it, and then the park failing, which it was going to anyways, and maybe 250 people dying.
Right.
So Dennis Nedry, when there were fewer victims, proved that the park was completely
So what you're
not safe.
saying is that instead of a statue to John Hammond in Jurassic World, we should have a statue to Dennis Nedry doing his, like,
Oh,
We should have a
I hate
giant
this hacker
statue.
crap.
You know, John, you have lots of controversial opinions. I think that's a very controversial opinion.
But I think he's actually right, though.
Yeah.
I don't think that sniveling little butthole is anyone's hero, though.
His ineptitude allowed them to basically make Jurassic World, because they were like, well, we got to hire more than like one person. Yeah. One person, Samuel L. Jackson. We need more than that.
Hold on your butts. Well, and the thing is, John Hammond always says, "Spare no expense, spare no expense." Yeah, except when it came
spared
to
some
the security
expense.
and safety of your park.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then you cut some GD corners, sir.
Because you know Nedry is running off for diarrhea all the time. Like, he's not manning his station.
And he doesn't. They don't have smartphones, so it's not like he can go do his work from the John or anything like that.
Oh my God.
Oh shit.
Speaking of John, I shall go down the list further here.
Okay.
All right. We got a hot and heavy one here. So we got to talk about dinosaurs. Let's talk about the Holocaust.
That is a hard movie.
Yeah, the movie that Steven Spielberg left right after Jurassic Park to do, a movie that he wanted to make for about 15 years, but was afraid to, was Schindler's List.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's not all jump at it right away, guys.
I mean, what am I going to say that hasn't been said before? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
This really is, as far as I'm concerned, this is his masterpiece.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, in terms of like, what is his best film? Not like my favorite, but his best film. I mean, probably this. I mean, Saving Private Ryan is great too, but that movie is a little glamorizing of war. Like Schindler's List gets right down in the
it throws your face right into it, and you know it's really hard for me to watch.
Yeah.
And truth be told, I've only gone through watched parts of it because it's hard. Still to this day to watch.
And that's powerful filmmaking.
Yeah. If you're getting a direct reaction to the film right on the bat, and that's a mark of a good filmmaker, in my opinion.
Yeah, his choice of black and white, I think, was definitely
the world was pretty dark back then. Yeah. World was pretty dark back then.
Agreed.
And you know, he had made like The Color Purple and Empire of the Sun, like other, say, dramatic films, but I don't think I've ever seen a turn from him like this before.
Yeah. From one to the other.
You know, and I wonder if there were people, because I was too young I didn't see Schindler's List when I was a kid. I was like 8, you know, but
right.
I wonder if there were people that were nervous that, oh, wait, the Jurassic Park E.T. guy is going to make a movie about the Holocaust, you know. But, I mean, yeah, he hits it out of the park. And, I mean, I remember especially the little girl in the red coat that they, I'm sure they just did rotoscoping on her.
I think they did a combination of using digital color tools that were just new at the time to isolate that color. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you see her again at the later in the movie, not so much alive. And and, you know, Spielberg basically took some time off after this movie because
I think you kind of have
hard.
to.
Yeah. He gave a lot of the funding to Holocaust survivors and to Jewish causes. And he basically created foundations after this movie. So,
right.
You know, he did a lot of good outside of just the film itself. And it took a lot out of him because, you know, this is a very, very personal film to him. You know, he had even brought up that when he was a kid, he was constantly teased and bullied for being Jewish.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That happens. That happened to me.
Yeah. Especially,
seriously.
I think in a lot of places he grew up, especially Arizona, you know, he was like the only Jewish kid in his
school.
No,
I mean, it was when you grow up anywhere where, honestly, I hate to say it, but like I lived in a time, you know, up north, and up north is kind of the sticks. And truth be told, you know, you're the only Jewish kid in the school district, and their parents are, you know, for the most part, uneducated enough to not really communicate that there are other people outside of Christianity.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do? You're going to make fun of the person you see as other. So, yeah, I experienced that. I experienced that in gym class. I experienced that up until the point where I just then decided to say, you know, fuck you and, you know, fight back in that. But, I mean, at the same time, like that is something that people who, you know, are not the stereotypical white male Christian
Right.
are going to experience. You know, I saw friends of mine who were African American who experienced the same thing and still are. I saw friends of mine who were Muslim who experienced the same thing. So, I mean, yeah, it happens to this day. And, I mean, it happens all over the place. And it's horrifying. So,
Right.
This movie hit me hard. Just because, especially nowadays, you know, last episode we talked about, hey, Nazis are still bad guys. And guess what? They still are.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they're making another Indiana Jones movie. Maybe they're like, because Nazis are bad.
We have to keep repeating over and over again. Nazis are bad. You're allowed to punch them.
Please tell me it's 2019.
It's 2019.
Indiana Jones is 103, and he's just punching Nazis and uses his walker.
It'll be his great grand kid. Now remember, punch the Nazis. It's okay to punch them.
Why did it have to be diabetes? I hate diabetes. On snakes.
Yeah.
But
He is so old, but man,
if
there's nothing better than watching him punch a Nazi in the face.
If it seems like we're getting a little sidetracked or not going into too much detail, it's hard to be like, what's your favorite scene from Schindler's List?
Yeah, it really is.
What's the most quotable line from Schindler's
There
List?
is really no quotable lines.
Yeah, so yeah, if you haven't seen it, go out of your way to see it, or see it again if it's been a long time, because it's make sure you got like some tissues and that you don't have anything to do the rest of the day
because you're going to be
it's a
real
hard
depressed.
watch. It's a hard watch. Yeah.
Yeah, make sure you have like your favorite like dinner food, and you can just kind of like chill for the rest of the night.
Yeah. But yeah, Stevie took 4 years off, and of course, I mean, you take 4 years off, and you're Steven Spielberg. You're going to come back with the best movie ever.
No.
And, oh no, Lost World. I remember this movie being a big fucking deal.
Here's the deal. I remember it being a big deal. I never saw it. Truth be told.
Oh wow, you've never seen the Lost?
I saw bits and pieces of it because it was playing on like TBS one day, but I was like, this is stupid. I'm not watching this.
You never saw the Vince Vaughn starring Lost World?
No.
Oh, that's right. That's Vince Vaughn.
Is it him and his most Vince Vaughnian?
No.
He gets Vince
This
Vaughn
isn't Wedding
here.
Crashers Vince Vaughn yet. But of all movies, Steven Spielberg saw the Psycho remake and went, I'm casting him.
Yeah, right? What was that? What was that?
But I remember in the movie theater is still up there in Erie. It's called Tinseltown. So we had two movie theaters. We had one in the mall and one right outside the mall. And Tinseltown came in and put them both out of business. It was like one of those
because it was Tinseltown.
Yeah, Cinemark's Tinseltown.
Listen, we just were there like the other weekend.
And they
It's still there.
and they had like 15 screens or something like that. And the Lost World came out and it broke the record. I saw on our local news at the time, 7 screens.
Wow.
For Lost World, because this is the sequel to Jurassic Park. 7 screens.
Oh,
That's
my
nearly
God.
half of their screen.
Everyone's like crapping their pants over this movie. I remember that.
There's some old guy, I want to see as good as it gets. Where is it? Sorry, sir. We had to put the dinosaur movie on 7 screens. But, right off the bat, if you're going to make the sequel, don't make it about Malcolm. He's good in small doses. Don't make the whole movie about him.
It's
What
true.
the hell are you doing?
I mean, it's with Jeff Goldblum. He is the best at small doses, unless it's a movie that's not like this. Case in point, The Fly is amazing. Like it is an amazing film, and he is not in small doses. In that, in fact, you get a huge heaping chunk of body horror version of Jeff Goldblum.
Get a lot of Bloom as Brindlefly.
Yeah, you get a lot of Brundlefly in that.
Brundlefly.
But in that he is not in small doses, but that's not a Steven Spielberg style film.
Right, no.
So, when you're trying to go for that whole like, oh yay, this is warm and cuddly, but there's dinosaurs in it, it's not going to work. It's not going to work with that Goldblum. So,
Quick sidetrack. Mel Brooks actually produced. He's one of the producers on The Fly. I think he's just getting into the producing game. And so a lot of people saw his name attached to it and went to it thinking it was going to be like a hilarious spoof.
Well, here's the thing. He did. Mel Brooks has done producing on a lot of movies that you wouldn't think are Mel Brooks films. Yeah. So, like The Elephant Man, that was a Mel Brooks film.
Oh yeah,
he produced that, and he didn't have his name attached to it because he was afraid that people were going to think that this was a comedy. But it's the same sort of thing. He has gone, and put himself on a bunch of movies that are completely, off away from what you would think a Mel Brooks movie is.
Speaking of, and we'll get back to The Lost World in a second here, if you look at Steven Spielberg as a producer as well, he has produced basically our entire childhoods. So on top of the movies that he has made, he has produced Poltergeist, Gremlins, the entire Back to the Future trilogy, An American Tail, Harry and the Hendersons, Batteries Not Included, Land Before Time, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Cape Fear, Tiny Toons, Animaniacs, Casper, Twister, all of the Men in Black films, Mask of Zorro, Small Soldiers, Deep Impact, Shrek, Band of Brothers, Flags of Our Fathers, Letters from Iwo Jima, True Grit, Super 8, the Jurassic World films, and more.
What? That's great.
That literally is the whole childhood. Right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No wonder he did Ready Player One, because he's like, I have access to all
of this. Yeah.
He did all 47 of the Land Before Time movies, right? There's 47 of them.
I'm sure his name, like as executive producer, is attached to it, like in a financial.
You don't have to do anything about it. He's just like, here's some money.
It's fine.
Get the animators to video or to do more of like mom dying. You know?
Mom dying.
Wasn't that in the first one?
Yeah.
Oh no, that was like life ruining.
Here's a children's film. Now mom's gonna die.
Here's a children's film. Just go ahead and cry forever.
But but the Lost World. Back on track.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, there are a lot of fantastic Steven Spielberg scenes in this movie. But the thing is, unfortunately, it seemed like somebody was copying Steven Spielberg with this movie because it's all scenery. Like, the scene like where they're running through the fields and you can see like the velociraptors chasing them because you can see the fields moving. Like, classic Steven Spielberg, beautifully shot.
Absolutely,
full of tension,
movement, dynamic.
But the characters suck. The story is just rehash. It's like we've seen it before. There's nobody likable. There's too much Malcolm. This movie is just a miss.
Too much Malcolm. It's true.
And I don't know, when you get Steven Spielberg back and there's already the love of Jurassic Park, I don't know how you can screw it up this bad.
I don't know either, because everybody like anticipated it so like strongly.
Yeah.
And it was such a steaming turd.
I don't think anyone was expecting that.
No.
I think they thought, well, Jurassic Park was so amazing. Let's make another one.
Yeah.
Well, and when you go back to the original Jurassic Park, like the amazing action sequences, you only feel something from that because you like the characters.
Yeah.
When they're being chased in the Humvee and the T-Rex is chasing them, or the little kids in the kitchen with the velociraptors coming after them, you feel something because you like the characters. This movie, Lost World, has amazing set pieces.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
With the camper going off the cliffside, or like I said, the velociraptors chasing them. But I just don't give a crap about Julianne Moore or Vince Vaughn or any of these people. So why do I care
to any of them? And that's
about these action set pieces?
And that's the big problem.
Julianne Moore. She's always the replacement.
Like in Hannibal?
In Hannibal, she was replacement for Jodie Foster. And
right.
Then she was replacement for Laura Dern. I mean, it's horrible.
I remember being so naive when they ended up making that movie. Because like Jodie Foster didn't want to come back from Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
And I was like, how are they moving on without the original actor, and why are they making a second movie so long after the fact? Like, I had no idea what was coming. None.
Yeah.
None.
She's not bad. Like, I liked her in Boogie Nights.
Oh no! I mean,
but
this is nothing against Julianne Moore. Just the fact that they made the movie again, and like, I didn't know that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, Lane, how do you feel about the ending of this movie with the T-Rex running around downtown San Diego?
I mean, it's ridiculous, right? Like, it's not a movie anymore.
Well,
it's a farce, you know?
It's a sequel, but where do you go? Well, I mean, how do you top the end of the first film? You've got to do something
to
nuts.
bring it back to the mainland.
Yeah.
I guess that's true, but I don't know. There's a lot of, like, space between those two places, you know? It just seems, I mean, if you're going to buy into a dinosaur movie, okay, fine, buy in. But, like, there is other stuff that needs to make sense.
Right.
But, yeah, I don't mind it. I know a lot of people said that that's where they were completely and utterly lost with this movie, was when the T-Rex was in the United States. But I think
it's like Mighty Joe Young shit right there.
Yeah.
Oh, Mighty Joe Young! I remember that
It's literally
movie.
like, oh yeah, let's bring him into our world.
Too funny.
But I was excited to see where a competent filmmaker would take something like that. And also, I mean, I don't think they had any other choice at that point.
Right.
What do you do
else?
next?
What else are you
Right.
going to do? Yeah.
I mean, that's what a sequel's supposed to do. It's supposed to raise the stakes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that would raise the stakes. I mean, I don't think it's good writing. I think that there's other ways to go about it. But as you said, like, you got to raise the stakes somewhere. And the only way to do that is get off the island.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. How else are you going to raise the stakes? So you're going to create like a hybrid dinosaur that's like a velociraptor and a T-Rex, and then like a really fat guy from one of the Law and Orders wants to make him into like an army, like a
The really fat
velociraptors.
guy. You mean Vincent D'Onofrio?
Yeah.
The really fat
John's
guy.
just shitting on everybody
The
today.
really fat guy from one of the Law and Orders. He wants to make them into weapons.
The
No
Law and
one's
Order
safe.
that nobody liked was it Criminal Intent?
And then Burt Macklin comes in and he's going to train raptors.
And then Spielberg got back to his serious roots here with Amistad.
Yeah, he did.
About the slave trade. Not a serious movie, but not one of his best. Like,
No.
not one of his best performances as a director. Don't get me wrong, the opening scene in this film is fantastic,
Right.
but the rest of it just really drags.
Isn't it just like a trial,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
It's just a trial.
and I mean he's got great actors, and we got Sir Anthony Hopkins and many others. But yeah, the movie just it drags a whole lot. It seems like kind of a departure for him. And I don't know. And in the woke era, guys, how do you feel about him directing Amistad? How do we?
I mean, it's as we go on, as we figure out that this like internalized and systemic, society that we have, like as we learn better, we do better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think it kind of suffers some of the issues that he had with The Color Purple. Where he kind of, I don't want to say glorified the South.
I mean, but glossed over.
Yeah,
Took
exactly.
the teeth out of.
Yeah. I think,
agreed.
I think movies that you have now that tackle similar subject matter have a bit more bite to them and are a bit more grounded in the real. Like 12 Years a Slave, that's a really holy shit movie.
Agreed.
That is in the vein. I mean, this is set way earlier than that. I think this is like 1800s.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
This takes place.
Let me double
I think it's
check
early
that.
1800s because John Quincy Adams is in it.
Right.
So this would be like
Not the actual man.
No. Anthony Hopkins plays him, but I think the subject matter
1839.
1839. So it's a little bit before the Civil War. But I think the subject matter nowadays kind of has to be a bit more grounded in the real atrocities. And I don't know if that's just because the audience expects that, or just because we're tired of the glossed over of history. I mean, you even look at, and we're going to get into this, with our Quentin Tarantino review next week.
All right.
But even Django Unchained, even though it's kind of, glorified hyperviolence, it still showcased a lot of the horrors of, slavery.
Right.
So, I mean, even with that, which is
Tell that to Spike Lee.
well, I mean, I get what he's coming, but I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
It wasn't glossed over. It was very horrific.
But you guys notice we're getting a pattern here from Steven, by the way. Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, Lost World, Amistad, popcorn movie, serious movie, popcorn movie, serious
I know.
movie.
Yeah.
Going
It
back
seems
and
to be,
forth.
it's him knowing what his wheelhouse is and then also wanting to make something like
Right.
a little more intense. Speaking of intense, we have up next on our doc here, Saving Private Ryan.
Holy
that's
shit.
a biggie. That's
Holy
a biggie.
shit.
This movie, this is hands down my favorite Steven Spielberg film. If you go to our archives on our favorite movies, you'll see that on my list near the very tippy top.
I think this might be like the best war movie.
Well, it's interesting that you should say that, because a lot of the true critics of this movie say after the D-Day opening of this movie that this film almost gives a kind of a heartfelt look at war, almost kind of a nostalgic look on it, almost like war is something that's beautiful.
Again, glorifying it.
Yeah.
I guess so. I mean, I kind of see that. I mean, it's. I mean, what other movies would you say show more of a horrifying, like Dunkirk?
Well, interesting. I would say anything that about Vietnam, because
yeah.
But in terms of World War II, when the movies like in the 50s were coming out, like John Wayne single-handedly taking out all the Nazis.
I think that's what I'm saying. Is like this movie. You could say it glorifies it to a point. And I do think it glorifies it to a point. It glorifies the soldiering, It glorifies the act of, brotherhood amongst soldiers and that. And I've never been in the army or anything like that, so I really can't say to any of that stuff. But I think what this movie gets right is that there is a horror to war. You know, that D-Day opening, as you said, that is literally like you can't really criticize it because it depicts it in very graphic detail. People's guts are hanging out, people's heads are getting blown off,
and it's masterfully done.
And it is masterfully done. I think after that, I think that's kind of like the crescendo, the beginning. You know,
I can see that.
And then from there, it's like, where do we go from here?
Yeah. He did kind of like blow his wad in that opening scene.
Whoa!
But I think that's
wad.
fine though, because the story isn't necessarily about D-Day. It's about the journey of trying to, find Ryan,
Private James
Ryan, and bring him home. You know, I think that's what the story's about. It's about the brotherhood of those soldiers trying to bring one of their own home and the journey of that. So I think that's why you have it. Basically, D-Day is just a setting, and it's a very grounded in the real setting.
Right.
But the story's not necessarily about World War II. It's about these individuals. And that's why I think it's a powerful film, is because it's a character piece for the most part.
What's amazing about this film is it's 2 hours and 48 minutes, and I can easily just put this movie on. I watch it probably once a year, and it does not feel like 2 hours and 40 minutes.
No,
it's like
it flies.
It's like when I left The Dark Knight, I was like, wait, that movie was nearly 3 hours?
Yeah.
You didn't feel it.
Didn't
Same
feel
deal.
like it at
Same
all.
deal.
I agree.
And then there are some movies that are like 88 minutes, and you're like, when is this going to fucking end?
That's a bad movie, boys and
That
girls.
is, that is,
That's what we call a bad movie.
But of all the scenes in this movie, like of all the the amazing shots that he did at D-Day, I think my favorite scene is when they go to James Ryan's mom's house and she's doing the dishes, and you get that reflection of the car coming up in the window, and then she goes to the front door and the person steps out of the car and it's in a wide shot and she falls to the ground. Like I think that was probably the most beautiful shot in the movie.
It is. That is beautifully shot.
But yeah, the journey that these guys take, like, I feel like I could just talk about my favorite scenes in this movie all day, but we need to get to other Spielberg movies.
My favorite,
I know, at this rate, we gotta move it.
My favorite, just to make a point, is when Oppum kills the Nazi.
Oh, at the very end.
At the very end, because like he's like, oh, we gotta be nice to the Germans, gotta treat them, talk to them both, and he just fucking kills them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's the turn. That's my favorite scene, because in that moment you see Oppum, who at this point has been very much like, he's not really a soldier. He's pretty much just like, well, let's try to negotiate. Let's try to talk to them. And at the point he realizes you can't talk to these Nazi bastards.
Right.
Oh, Betty
Right.
Grable. Look at those gams.
Yeah.
Okay, if he's digging his own grave and you guys have this guy and there's no way to put him into, send him to any of your local camps, do you kill the Nazi in the hole or do you let him go?
I'm not talking about who I'm going to kill and who I'm going to not on our movie podcast.
Hey, that's a big part of the movie. I just wanted to know if you guys are killing the Nazis.
I'm not answering that right now. It is too early for that shit.
You kill him.
I kill the Nazi.
Yeah, you kill him. Because he's just
He's a fucking Nazi.
He's
Come
just
on.
going to turn around and kill one of your buddies while you cry in a stairwell.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. That's what happened.
Yeah. My favorite scene, though, is when they shoot the sniper through the eyeball. Because I like excessive violence. Yeah.
You do like the absurd.
I like the ultra violence.
Although, he had it dead to rights in the other guy's scope, but from the distance he was, you would actually need to aim higher because the arc of the bullet would fall. So if he actually aimed at his scope, he would actually probably would have hit the barrel of the gun.
Honey, why do you know so much about that?
Because he needs to know.
Because it's
worried. I'm worried.
Math.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got next?
Yeah, definitely check out Saving Private Ryan as well. So watch Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan, and then, I don't know, hang yourself. I don't know. After that. A very interesting one to kind of break down. AI, artificial intelligence.
Oh my God. I didn't see this until you and I were together and you made me watch it.
Okay, if you take out the ending of this movie, I love it.
Yeah, and I can see where you're coming from. It's
the ending's
got
so
promise.
bad.
But
Yeah.
here's the fascinating thing about how this movie came to be. So this movie was a Stanley Kubrick film. Kubrick original. And then
he died.
Yeah, he died.
He died.
And then,
eyes wide shut, and he's like, yeah, I just blew my load. I'm going to die now.
it took
That's
me 6
exactly
years
how
to
it
make.
went, y'all.
Yeah. It cost Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, their marriage. Well, that and Tom is a homosexual. But
You can't say that. Can't say that.
Okay.
Can't say that.
yeah.
The former Cinema Psychos show was sued into oblivion
Can't say
today.
that. No, we don't. That's unsubstantiated. Can't
And
say that.
and a crazy Scientologist. But anyways.
That's fair.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair.
But his good buddy Steven Spielberg stepped in to, finish the movie. And a lot of people saw the ending of the movie where the aliens come down and unfreeze the robot boy, and he gets his magical fairy tale ending with his mom. And a lot of people are like, "Oh God, Steven Spielberg, run amok! He ruined the movie." No, that was actually Stanley Kubrick's ending.
Interesting.
Really?
Interesting.
And the thing is, if you look at some of his work, Steven Spielberg almost seemed like in his latter half of his career was trying to be Stanley Kubrick. And it's funny with his last movie, it seemed like Stanley Kubrick was trying to be Steven Spielberg.
Ah,
I see what you did there.
interesting.
And all Spielberg did was honor the ending that which Stanley wanted to do, and we all blame Steven Spielberg for that ending because it just seems like him, doesn't it?
Right.
It does. It does. But I mean, this movie, I have a love-hate thing with this movie.
Okay.
Like there are pieces of it. Like I don't like Haley Joel Osment in this.
He's not great in
He's
this.
not great in it. Like this was right. This is right after Sixth Sense,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, like he was great in Sixth Sense, but this he was just kind of annoying. Like I felt he was annoying in it. Like every scene he's in, he's just annoying. I know
Yeah.
that's also because he's trying to play a robot who's trying to be a real boy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like there are parts of it I love. I love what's his face, the escort robot. That he's
Jude
friends
Law.
with.
Oh,
I love
yeah.
Jude
Gigolo
Law.
Joe.
Yeah, I love him. I think he's hilarious in this. And
Jude Law, like hot take.
Gigolo Joe.
Hot take. Jude Law is good in everything he does.
I really do like Jude
He's
Law.
a really good actor.
say everything he does? Alfie.
We don't need to talk about Alfie.
We don't need to talk about the shitty movies he does. He's probably still good.
But I mean,
in it.
he made Sky Captain a little bit better.
Yeah, that's true.
Made
And the
Sky
Worlds
Captain.
of Tomorrow? Sky Captain's the Worlds of Tomorrow.
That fucking
I forgot
movie.
about that movie.
Yeah, most people did.
That fucking movie.
But I mean, I liked his character in this film. I like the settings. I think the settings are beautifully designed. And again, it's a mastery kind of like how to use CG.
Right.
Because you can tell this wasn't just a green screen like George Lucas would do and just say, okay, start acting. You can tell that they built some set pieces.
Yeah, to make
and
it
then
easier.
built some CGI. But at the same time, like it's a love-hate thing. Like there are parts of it I
Sure.
really like and there are parts of it I really hate.
So with AI, I think it's really kind of a hit or miss kind of movie. I think there
Yeah.
are some parts of it that are spectacular, and I don't know if that's Kubrick
Kubrick.
or Spielberg. Because they both shot quite a bit of this movie. I don't know if it's 50-50 when Kubrick died, or some
Did
other.
Kubrick
percentage.
actually shoot part of this?
I think he did. I could be wrong on that. I want to do.
There is something to that, though.
Yeah.
Like I seem to
he might
remember
have only
reading
done
something
the pre-production.
near.
Maybe he
Yeah,
didn't actually.
That's what I thought. I thought he just
Okay.
did pre-pro.
yeah. He had some kind of
That could
involvement.
be the
I remember
case.
reading.
We'll double check that here. But yeah, but I loved AI up until that fairy tale ending. What an ending it would be if the kid was just wishing at the fairy under the ice and was going to do that until his power cell broke down, because he's not a real child, even though he thinks he is. Like that's
Yeah.
an impactful ending. But then,
But
no.
so sad. God.
But then we got Kubrick's alien ending that Spielberg was probably jerking himself off to. Yeah.
He's like, well, it's schmaltzy, so I kind
How
of need
dare,
that.
right.
how
It's right
dare
up my-
people want happy endings? I need more pain.
Yeah.
Then we got a movie that seemed not like a Spielberg movie at all. We got Minority Report the following year.
I really like Minority Report.
I just rewatched it. The special effects are not good.
No, they're not. But I do like it though.
I do too. It's weird. Like, how old were we when that came out? Because I remember
It
seeing
was
that in the theater.
2002,
So I don't know. What was I? 16.
Probably 16, 17.
I was probably 16. So yeah, I just think it's interesting because I remember thinking the plot was so complicated then, and like I didn't remember really any of the beats of the whole thing, but as it was going, I was like predicting everything as it happened. It's just interesting, like when like the full parts of your brain come in at 25 and like studying this shit for 8 years, it kind of does a lot for you.
I thought the action sequences, the overtop action sequences, got in the way of like the complex narrative. What was that? Philip K. Dick wrote that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I thought there was a lot to be said with the movie, but I think it was too focused on Tom Cruise running.
You want to know what's something funny?
I could
You want
see
to know
that.
a funny fun fact about this?
Yes.
Love to.
So this originally was written as a sequel to Total Recall.
No shit.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, the character that Tom Cruise plays is basically Douglas Quaid.
That's crazy.
Oh, dude, if
Well, this is
Arnold was in
based-
this, it would have been badass.
Well, this is actually based
Like-
on a short story.
Well, that's what I'm saying is the
Yeah, by
short
Philip K.
story
Dick. Yep.
was a sequel to Total
Oh,
Recall.
wow. That's insane.
Yeah, but
That's crazy.
I love this because it's a science fiction film mashed in with a mystery.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about it.
and
I liked the mystery.
It even has hints of neo noir thrown in there
I
as
buy
well. Are some of the the Tom Cruise isms in there? Absolutely, and there are some things in there that I'm like, why is Tom Cruise running all the time?
Right.
all the time because he's really good at running.
He is
He's
really
a
good
good
at running.
runner. Yeah.
But like there are moments in this where I'm just like, oh man, it's so good. Like the eyeball scene,
Oh, yeah. That's crazy.
it's crazy creepy.
Skeeves me out. It really does.
It didn't seem like he even needed to be the director of this movie. You got a summer movie starring Tom Cruise about science fiction stuff that looks like it had a large budget. Did Steven Spielberg even need to direct this movie?
I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, like,
I
there's-
think he did.
I see
Yeah.
fewer of his hallmarks in this film, though, than I do in others. It seems less Spielbergian.
It does.
Is there even a goddamn shooting star in it?
There has to be somewhere. There has to
There's
be.
kidnapped children.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Well,
there's
too,
bad
I mean,
parents.
I think like
Bad parenting.
I think the look of the future too. I think is what also drew me to this movie initially, just because it was interesting to see, and it takes place in like 2050. And now when I realize like how actually old I'm gonna be in 2050, like I don't find it charming anymore. This shit's not cute.
Yeah.
The future doesn't feel as far away as it used to. I guess.
No, it doesn't.
When you're 65.
Yeah. Can I say that Colin Farrell quite good in this film?
Yeah.
And I feel like
He has his moment.
And I feel like he had like a long period of in real life being like a man-ho, and like
Man,
it made me and that made me kind of like dismiss him as a human being. But you and I were talking about this in the car the other day, John. Like he's a good actor.
in small doses and in the right part, I think.
Yeah.
He needs the right director,
because
I think.
in this he's supposed to he's set up as kind of like the foil to Tom Cruise, even though you realize like midway through that he's not.
Right, yeah.
You know,
Spoiler alert. If
spoiler-
you haven't seen this movie from 2002, though,
I'm
shame
gonna
on
say,
you.
I mean, he get fucking shot by Max von Sydow.
Oh
So
my
I
God.
mean,
So you're just laying that out
I am.
there.
It's
Double down.
2002.
All right.
if you
All
haven't
right.
seen a movie before we invaded Iraq, this,
Oh, Jesus.
that's on you.
Jesus
on you, buddy.
Christ, John. Oh my Lord.
but
All right.
but yeah, I mean, he's set up as a foil, and you kind of like, oh, I hate that guy, but then you realize because he's smart,
he was doing his job,
he's doing his job,
and that's why he dies.
and that's why he dies. So
But moving on from Minority Report, a movie that like is cute and clever when you watch it, but I just don't know if it really holds up all that wonderful, especially for a Spielberg movie, and that's Catch Me If You Can.
I love Catch Me If You
I
Can.
love this movie too. Again,
I don't
like,
care.
it's
I don't
like-
care.
It's,
It's
like a
good.
caper.
It's charming,
It's like a
but-
caper, you know. And I love Tom Hanks.
But when you got Steven fucking Spielberg, you expect more than this, don't you?
No,
I thought it was
Wait till we get to
done.
the next movie.
I thought it was well done, and I mean, like maybe your like DiCaprio hatred is like coming out. You know,
I think that's it. I think it's your bias.
we're gonna hear you shit on him
Your
in
DiCaprio
Tarantino's
hatred.
new film in a little bit. In a couple weeks here, but I don't know, man. Like I like this movie a lot. This is like one of my favorites. I think, I like the story of it. I think it's original. It's based on a real life person,
Yeah.
which I think is cool. Like, I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's also like spot the actresses that become famous later because Amy Adams is in it.
Oh shit! She's the one with the braces, isn't she?
Yes, sir.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Cool, huh?
I mean, I love this movie just because it's that cat and mouse chase,
Right. I love that
You
too,
know,
Brian.
and it's
I love that
always
too.
like, how smart is Frank Abagnale Jr. in this? I mean,
Right?
And he is really fucking smart.
And goddamn it, if I'm not a sucker for like the exact kind of wardrobe and production styling of this film, like I'm not gonna say that isn't like 20% of why I like this movie because it's just beautiful.
It got Joaquin an Oscar nomination.
Dude,
It
Joaquin
did.
was good in this. Like I don't know, he was like less like of a joke than usual.
Well, he was basically the exact opposite of his son.
Right.
Leonardo DiCaprio is
Yeah.
the smart side of him.
Right.
That street smart that actually succeeds, whereas Walken kind of is like, well, I'm just going to exist and, down on your luck and all that stuff, who kind of lives vicariously through his kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, I mean, maybe I'm being too tough on this, but when you have Mr. Jaws, Mr. Color Purple, Shawshank Redemption, Schindler's List, blah, 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 keep it in, Saving Private Ryan, Jurassic, Park, and then you get Catch Me If You Can. I don't know. It doesn't seem up to his caliber.
Well, I mean, not
it's
every
a good movie. I'm
not
not saying
everything's
it's not
going to be a
fun.
hit,
It's a
and
fun
two,
movie.
like how daunting must that be as a big name to like try
Always
something
live up to
different
that?
and live
Yeah.
up to
Yeah.
yourself. You'd never try anything different. You'd be too afraid. So good for him for trying, and maybe it isn't his best work, but it's still a good movie.
Well, speaking of not living up to your potential, the worst movie ever made, The Terminal.
Good God, it is. It is
This
so
movie made
boring.
me want to hate Steven Spielberg.
So boring.
I think it's one of Tom Hanks's, like, I wish I didn't do this movie.
I think everybody involved, I wish I didn't do this
Agreed.
movie.
Agreed.
What the fuck were they thinking?
You know what I think it was? I think it was Steven Spielberg was stuck in a terminal one day and was just like, you know what? What would happen if you couldn't leave the terminal?
I think it's
And you
based on
had
a
to
true
live
story.
here.
Yeah.
Like, I think literally, like, I think it's his life trying to flying between places. Like, he just got stuck in a terminal.
This seems like the kind of movie that Tom Hanks did, like around like Turner and Hooch and Bachelor Pad,
And Joe
Bachelor
versus,
Party. Excuse
Joe
me.
versus the volcano.
Yeah, like this seems like those movies he was making before League of Their Own.
Yeah, it's true.
When he was known for that, like, scream that he always did.
What? Come on!
Or the Burbs. Like, that scream we would do in the Burbs all the time. Yeah.
His Dragnet scream.
His Dragnet scream.
All he did is scream through Dragnet. Actually,
Yes, he did.
It's true.
But it's...
there's nothing to even really say about this movie. I mean, I saw it twice for some reason. I hated it both times. And I had to like
Twice.
Yeah. And I had to
Why?
like just do some research for this episode. And I'm like, I was just so grateful I didn't rewatch it for this episode.
Yeah, there's no need.
And there's nothing really to say. I don't mean to be dismissive of this movie like we were always, but we all admitted we didn't see always. We have seen The Terminal, but like,
Yeah.
there's nothing to say. It's just slow, dragging garbage. And it doesn't seem like Spielberg directed this. It seems like a schmuck directed this
Oh
movie.
yeah, it does. It just.
it just...
This is definitely the one to skip.
It is the one to skip. I mean, it's one of those ones where it's like...
1941,
Yeah.
always in The Terminal.
Yeah.
You can skip those and still know what Steven Spielberg's all about.
It just doesn't have much depth to it.
Yeah.
You got, perennial bad guy Stanley Tucci in it.
Stanley Tucci.
The Tooch only plays
Tooch.
bad guys.
Yeah.
And he always plays the intelligent bad guy, not like the douchebag bad guy.
Oh, yeah, because he looks smart, but he looks a little skeevy. So,
Yeah.
like,
A
they're
little
going to
bit,
cast
little
you
bit.
as, like,
Yeah.
the smart bad guy.
Just like in Jury Duty.
Jury duty.
I
Polly
can't.
Shaw.
I can't.
I'm more of a in the army now, man.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
What about
Stanley
son-in-law?
Stanley Tucci was a bad guy in Jury Duty.
Can't stand Biodome, though.
But-
I mean, not his best.
Gonna make a dome within the dome.
All right.
All right.
What's next?
So what's next?
We'll
on
be
our
back
list?
more with our Polly Shore podcast. I want to know what your guys' feelings on War of the Worlds. Silence has filled the room.
That's a tough one.
It's such a big thing to live up to. I mean, John and I listen to the radio cast every year.
I mean, well, there's novelizations, there's radio broadcasts, it's been
feel
made
like-
for television.
I feel like it was too big of a production and it came from the wrong place. They wanted to make a big blockbuster out of this thing that was just kind of clever, and there's like more of a heart to it than that, to make a big like to do out of it, I think is just kind of upsetting.
The one piece that I liked about World of Worlds was mainly how it depicted not just the aliens, because honestly the aliens weren't really a big deal in this. It was the reaction of how we would approach, that type of thing happening. Because you get like the armies, their response is we're going to blow the shit up. And that doesn't work. Okay. Yeah. And then you get to kind of like the sticks and you see like, what's his face?
Tim Robbins.
Tim Robbins is fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is this. I think if you were in that situation, that's what would happen. You'd have some people who would clam up and go fucking crazy.
Although I do feel that derails the movie's like momentum.
I
All
don't.
that basement stuff.
I mean, I think you have to have that in there to break it up a little bit. You know, I think there needs to be the moment of breaking it between all the action, because that's the one thing that Minority Report didn't really have, were those moments when the action broke up. It was kind of like nonstop action. And if you're in that movie, that's fine. But I mean, I think it needs breaks in there. But I did like how Spielberg was able to kind of showcase what is the human being's reaction to this. How's the military going to respond? How is a father and kind of like a distant kid's going to respond?
Wait, you mean there's a distant father who needs to learn how to be a good dad?
Yeah.
But
that's a theme we've never seen in a Spielberg film.
Well, what I find very interesting, and now granted, The Terminal, Catch Me If You Can, and Minority Report all came out after 9/11. I feel like this is Spielberg in a post 9/11 world.
Yeah,
right.
Because this is an Independence Day. This is like how we would deal with this. After 9/11. I mean, was it Dakota Fanning?
Yeah.
Yeah, when she's like, is it the terrorist? Is it the terrorist, daddy? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's a gritty kind of, in ways, some parts depressing movie for a big popcorn, dum-dum movie. There are parts where it gets really serious and philosophical.
Can I get popcorn dum-dum movie put on a t-shirt? Pretty much love it.
Well, I was like popcorn explodey fist punch movie.
Also good.
Yeah.
Also good.
But yeah, I think this movie wanted to be more intelligent than it really was. It's like, I wrote the script that's going to change the world. And then you read the script and you're like, no, dude, you're a hack, And I'm not saying that about
the script that's going to change the world.
I feel like this movie, I think they thought they had a whole lot to say. And I mean, there is some post 9/11 things that are said here. But I don't think this movie is as deep as it thinks it is.
No, I
think this is a dumb explosion movie.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It is, but as I said, I think the Spielberg comes out in how the actors are reacting to the situation. That's kind of, any other director I don't think would be able to do that. I think Spielberg shines in showcasing characters. So the characters in this, that's what people are paying attention to. Is it in the background of a big exploding action movie? Yes, it is. Yeah. But I mean, it's the characters.
Sure.
Next up, and I had to do some research on this one because I know I saw it, but I don't remember much about it, and that's Munich.
Yeah, I never saw it.
Yeah,
I didn't see it.
That's not one I caught.
The thing is, and it was up for like 7 Oscars. So clearly, I mean, some other people found it amazing, but I really don't retain much of it. So,
well, there are a lot of movies that come up kind of in the 2000s after pretty much these blockbuster ones that kind of like you didn't realize he did them.
Yeah,
like I mean, for me, like I didn't know he did Bridge of Spies and the BFG.
Well,
I didn't know
nobody,
that.
Including Spielberg's mama.
I didn't
saw
know.
the BFG.
I didn't know he did Adventures of Tintin. I did know the one after Munich he did. What the fuck?
Yeah, let's jump there, shall we?
Can we jump there? Because I think we kind of have to.
Well, I'm not even going to call this by its real title because I refuse to accept it exists. So I'm going to call this Mississippi Smith and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Wow, Mississippi Smith. Yeah. I like where you went there.
Yeah, he's an Indiana Jones knockoff guy.
Well, no, yeah. I got what you're picking up.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
What
you're good.
The actual fuck? What the fuck, man?
Well, welcome back, you bearded toy salesman fucker, and your stupid script.
And let's be honest here. By this time, he is the bearded toy.
No, he's talking about Lucas, aren't you?
Yes, he is.
Lucas.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and by this point, he is. I see.
Yeah. This is coming right off of like Phantom Menace. Not Phantom Menace, but all the prequels.
Yeah.
Yeah, this would be right after
Revenge of the Sith. Yeah.
So it's like, you know what? I just fucked over Star Wars. Might as well do the same thing to my other property, Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I'm just going to shit on everyone's childhood. Take this.
If you watch the special features of the original Indiana Jones films, you find out that Temple of Doom, the original script that George gave to Steven, took place in a haunted house. And you realize that he was always shit.
Yep. But he was like around more talented people. And like when he was doing, the first few films, like he didn't fuck up the first one. Congratulations. And then someone else directed the second too. So like I feel like it was at a point where they were like, no, George, like you have some good ideas, but like some of this is stupid.
You really need wrangled.
Yeah.
But then he became, George Lucas and Star Wars, and then nobody wanted to tell him no.
Part of that is our fault.
Yeah. I mean, I
that's
guess.
our fault.
It's not my fucking fault. I wasn't born yet.
No, but I'm just making a point that part of that is because the fans bought into the fact that George Lucas was the master.
We all kissed his rings.
We all kissed his ring. We all did it. I did it. I when I heard that they were making the prequels, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be awesome.
God, was there anything more exciting than that? Like, seriously.
And then you saw the trailer, and you were like, okay.
But he's George Lucas, so he can't fail.
He can't fail. He can't screw it up, you know? And then you saw it, and you're just like, oh, God.
What happened?
What?
I'm disillusioned. My childhood's over.
What? Like,
I think that was like
you walk
the
out of there going,
saddest.
well, the pod racing scene was great, but what the fuck?
I feel like that was the saddest I've ever been. Like, that was my first taste of like what would prepare me later to like get through like family member death, like understanding that I was so excited for these films, and like I felt like I had done something wrong. I was like, why didn't I love it? Why don't I feel better right now?
You're like, I should like this.
It took me a very long time to figure out it wasn't my fault.
Well, see, Lane, to tell a story on you, you didn't grow up with video games, and like if she got a good report card, she was allowed to, in an old thing called a video rental store, she could rent a video game system for the weekend, and she would rent a game, and she always thought, like, I always thought I was just really bad at video games, and I said, no, like 90% of video games that came out back in those days sucked and were unplayable.
Yeah, and I always thought it was my fault that I wasn't good, you know?
It's true.
But you always thought it was your fault.
Any video game that you bought that was based off a movie was always garbage.
Oh, yeah. Every time.
Always garbage.
Except Aladdin for Sega.
It's true.
Yeah. That's the one. Yeah.
But yeah, Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull of Fuckery.
Mississippi Smith. Mississippi Smith.
I mean, I honestly, I was naive enough to think that because Steven Spielberg was involved, that maybe he'd rein in, Lucas, because prior to this, he done a bunch of movies that were good, right? I didn't know anything about the other movies that were terrible. I thought, hey, this, you know what? He's Steven fucking Spielberg. How bad can it be?
How bad could it be?
Fuck me, right? Because it was terrible.
Well, you see in interviews that they basically had to drag him kicking and screaming to make this movie. He even says, with The Last Crusade, I filmed them going into the sunset because I was fucking done with Indiana fucking Jones. It was over.
So sad.
And they brought a dump truck of money to his house. And a
Here's
couple of Orson Welles scripts signed.
A dump
and he's
truck of money.
Yeah. And Joan Crawford's Oscar.
This movie
so he could return that to the
really
Academy.
It's a fucking train wreck. Like it's a fucking train wreck.
For fear of you guys yelling at me, do you know the one part that I didn't even really mind that much in the movie?
About what?
In this movie?
Jonesy!
No, aliens. It's
Oh.
Every one of these movies are Lucas homaging something that he grew up with. This movie takes place in the 50s, and you constantly had science fiction movies about aliens in the 1950s. Everybody freaks out about aliens in Indiana Jones franchise, but the movie has mystical magic powers from the Ark of the Covenant and and voodoo magic in the second one. It's not really that surprising. I didn't mind the alien part of it.
I minded the alien part.
Yeah, did that piss you off?
I've seen dumber things.
Okay, so that pissed me off because it felt to me very much like how in the 60s and 70s you had exploitation films that mashed two genres together that didn't really work together at all.
That's fair.
Like Santa Claus versus the Martians. Like
That's
something like that. I know, it's a classic.
One of John's favorites.
It's a classic because it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I
Exactly.
didn't like the fact that you're taking Indiana Jones, which has always been rooted in the adventure and action, and yes, the mystical stuff does play into it, but it plays into it because of the fact that Indiana Jones is an archaeologist. So he is going to uncover things that are mystical and magical and based in the occult. Whereas you take that aspect of him and you mash it with the science fiction shit, and it just didn't feel right. It landed like a dud. And that's why it felt to me more like Santa Claus versus the Martians than it did like an Indiana Jones movie. And I think I'm not the only person who felt that way.
I absolutely buy that, and I think it's because the other three were in a very specific time frame.
Yeah,
but I knew going into it, I'm like, okay, if this is the 50s, he's going to be homaging, the supernatural, or it's either going to have to deal with nuclear stuff, or it's going to be aliens.
Plus, here's my main point too. The movies prior to Crystal Skull were all based in what 1930, late 30s.
38, 41, and 44, I think, are the.
I don't think they're 44.
The
It was before World War II.
before our involvement. Yes,
Before, so that's probably 39.
39. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
would say.
I think Last Crusade was 39. So
Yeah.
the point
Correct.
is, the
I'm
point
thinking
is,
of our time in there. Yeah.
Correct.
the point is that we have never seen Indiana Jones in World War II, and
Yeah.
I know that his age is an issue, but at the same time, it would have been really interesting.
Not anymore. Now they can de-age him.
But
yeah.
but you
Yeah.
get my point, right?
Yeah.
Like it would have been really interesting to see, World War II Indy actually in the war. Like
At home collecting war bonds.
no, not just that, but I mean actually I could
Yeah.
see him fighting the Nazis up close and personal
Yeah.
in World War II and doing some adventure shit on the side. Like that's what I'm getting at.
like a caper, like in World War II, like he's got to recover some art.
Or not just
Yeah.
that, but Hitler does have that whole occult side.
Yeah.
to
Oh,
him.
I see. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That'd be
he
a good flick.
Yes,
I check that out.
Yes,
Ooh, yeah.
that would have been a
I'd
good
watch that.
flick, wouldn't it? Maybe Lucas could have done that instead of this
He'd have
bullshit.
ruined it.
But that's my point: is that you stick to what works.
I think it's because Harrison Ford was so old, they had to put it in the mid to late 50s.
You know
Yeah,
what?
it's true.
He dyed his fucking hair. Okay, I don't care. I'm just making a point of. There's a lot you could do. Maybe you put Harrison Ford in fucking Vietnam or some shit.
You guys
or
are forgetting
Korea.
that Harrison Ford didn't fucking want to be there. Like, there's only so much you can do with the
Wait,
guy.
guys, I got a great pitch. Okay.
I-
Are you ready?
I-
Okay.
Or Korea.
This is highly detailed, so get ready.
Okay.
Just don't make the movie.
Oh, you could do that too.
Because Harrison Ford is old as fuck and doesn't want to be there, and the director doesn't want to be there either, and the writer is a hack fraud doofus.
Wow, tell us how you really feel, John. Like,
Hack
please
fraud
don't hold back.
doofus.
See, last thing we'll say on this movie is that it's so bad it created its own term called nuking the fridge.
That's true.
Oh, they really nuked the fridge on that one.
That's true. That's very true.
So you want to run through the next couple ones?
2011, Adventures of Tintin. Didn't see it.
Didn't see it.
Warhorse.
Didn't see it.
Yeah, I did. Wow. What a waste of fucking time.
Yeah.
A boy and his love relationship with a horse in World War I.
Woot.
Great. I don't mean to be dismissive, but there's not really a lot to say about Warhorse. The duck was cute. There was a pet duck, and he was funny. Lincoln, I think, is a masterpiece.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
that's a great one.
Lincoln is a really solid film. I think that's Daniel Day-Lewis though.
And he was
Fair.
not the first choice for this in any way, but I mean, how do you not cast Daniel Day-Lewis if you need a spot-on recreation of Abraham Lincoln?
I mean,
Yeah.
it was smart casting. It was good filmmaking. It was a culmination of a lot of things, you know?
And now he's off making his shoes. I am a cobbler.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank God, because, that last movie he was in was a fucking nightmare.
That's supposed to be his last film, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way to go out.
Way to go out.
Yeah,
Out with a
farting.
whimper, not
kind
with
of
a
pulled
bang.
a Sean Connery on that one. There.
Out with a whimper, not
Oh,
with a
the
bang.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. This is my last movie. I'm
Is
ever
that
gonna
really
do.
his last movie?
No, he was thinking about retiring anyways, but he made that movie and it disgusted him so bad. He's just, fuck, I'm done with movies.
He was like, well, see ya.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That's crazy.
Yeah, but Lincoln, I think, is very well paced. I think it shows a very extremely mature Steven Spielberg. And, we talked about how Quentin Tarantino said, you should only make about 10 movies. You should retire. It's a young man's game. And a lot of his movies are just kind of meh in the 2000s.
Sure,
but Lincoln
true.
shows the guy still got it.
He still has it.
He knows how to pace a story. He really knows how to,
Plus, I think
Exactly.
this is also like him at his most masterful of period films.
Yeah.
Like
I
this
would say
is
that's
him
fair.
learning all of the lessons that he learned from Color Purple, Amistad, and even some of his war films. Trying to really capture that period essence.
Right.
I could see some people being bored with Lincoln, but
I
I'm a
loved
history
it.
buff.
I love
I'm a
Lincoln.
loved
history
it.
buff.
I love it, and it's spot on the history side.
Yeah.
Like he did a lot of research.
Two movies just kind of wrap up here. He did it as he always does, a serious movie and then a popcorn movie.
Right.
The Post I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, that was one of your
I
top
didn't see
ones.
it.
I thought it was a great movie.
Terrible person.
Yeah. I thought it was a great movie in the Trump era. Fake news.
Right.
Fake
Sure.
news.
About the media not being afraid to call attention to something,
Right.
because of the backlash they could experience. It was about Watergate
Right.
and how the Washington, Post was the first ones to bring to light something, a news story that they thought could destroy them as a newspaper. And
Right.
it really put them on the map, and they had the courage to bring the truth to power. And it's an allegory for the Trump era.
Of course.
It is, but I not to get political, but I don't think that the current Washington Post or the media would
Not the current
do that
Post, no.
now. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I think this is a love letter to a time when journalists had fucking integrity.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Integrity.
Meryl Streep was fantastic in it as always. Tom Hanks was in it. I mean, like he obviously knew where to butter his bread in terms
Right.
of casting.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, it does meander a bit.
Right.
But I love movies on journalism, so I didn't give a shit.
Sure.
I saw it in the theater. I loved it quite a bit. So it is a young man's game for directing, but maybe not for Steven Spielberg. Oh wait, Ready Player One.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Maybe he should hang it up.
Well, I mean, like, we
talked
talked
about
about
it.
this
Yeah,
movie, and
you
so
can definitely see that in our archives.
you can definitely check that out. I mean,
Those are their buddy Kevin.
Yep.
yeah. So, I mean, that's a good episode. We have a good discussion about it, but like that movie, come on, like, give me a break.
That was a bag of hot sick.
oh, big hot sick. Oh, I love you so much.
That's again. This is Steven Spielberg saying, "Hey, I'm going to play with all my toys at one time."
Yeah.
Right, and like, and
I
I
feel
think
that's the book it was based on. Yeah, just like look at all this stuff that you like. It's like putting all your action figures out while you're watching cartoons, but simultaneously playing a video game on another TV.
Yeah.
You know, like
and who does that? Children.
children.
And honestly, my stepsons love this movie. They
Yeah,
really do.
I
Oh,
bet
the
they
ones
love
are
this
10
movie.
and
Bet they
8
do.
and 8, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 7.
Yeah.
Twins
But-
are 7.
But yeah, I mean, like the thing with this is, it's interesting that his successes were the more serious films.
Yeah.
At this age, maybe blockbusters are a young man's game.
Well,
Because it seems like they get worse over time.
Lane, it's interesting you should say that because I want to challenge you guys here.
Mhm.
Schindler's
Challenge.
List, I think, is when he peaked because Amistad, kind of a near miss. I mean, Saving Private Ryan, great. But Minority Report, Catch Me If You Can, good movies, not great. War of the Worlds, not great. Terminal, terrible. Munich, forgettable. No one saw Tintin. No one saw BFG. Lincoln was all right. Warhorse was meh. Ready Player One was shit. Like, did he peak at Schindler's List? Like, he
Well,
never.
you called Lincoln a masterpiece.
Yeah, but I mean, was there anything that can be held up to that? And I mean, I'm not even talking about his like dramatic films. Like E.T. resonates with people to this
Yeah,
day. The
it's
first
true.
Indiana Jones.
I think the problem is it is hard to make movies that really resonate with people for the long time. For the long
Yeah.
term. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, think about how many movies get released in a week. Compare that with when, E.T. came out. It's you're getting much more
twice,
stuff.
if not 3 times.
Yes,
Right,
exactly.
right.
So I think it's hard for these movies to kind of stick in the first place. That's not to say that I don't think he's peaked. I think he has. Personally, I think, Saving Private Ryan is probably where he peaked at.
Yeah,
Interesting.
That would
interesting.
be fair.
I would say that. I think that's his apex in terms of, as a filmmaker, can I make a movie that really sucks people in and really pulls the heartstrings.
Well, what's sad with Steven Spielberg is I think he almost treats filmmaking like sports. The thing is, like, you can win 1 championship and it can be a fluke, but if you win 2, like, okay, you're in the annals of history now as one of the best. I think he won a second Oscar for Saving Private Ryan. He's like, okay, now I'm done. I won
Now
2
I'm
Oscars.
done.
I'm done.
I have 2 gold statues that I shove up my ass.
Let's not say that he does that.
All right.
Let's settle.
But you know what I mean? Like, I think in this landscape, it is harder to create films that really just like stick with you.
Yeah, I could see that.
But, I mean, he has his praisers and his critics. Empire Magazine and Entertainment Weekly called him the greatest director of all time. He has
Sure.
admirers in Hitchcock, Kubrick, and Scorsese. However, some of his detractors say Spielberg's critics complain that his films are overly sentimental and tritely moralistic.
Right.
In fact,
I can see that.
in the book, Easy Riders, Raging Bulls, and How Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll Generation Saved Hollywood, the author summarized the views of Spielberg's detractors, accusing the director of infantilizing the audience, reconstructionalizing the spectator as child, then
Yeah.
overwhelming him or her with sound and spectacle, obliterating irony, aesthetic self-consciousness, and critical reflection. Your guys' thoughts.
Wow.
I think that's probably accurate. I do think that I don't think Steven Spielberg is a very, I want to say, deep filmmaker.
Yeah.
I don't think he is. That's his wheelhouse. I think he tries, but but I don't think he is. He's not someone who's going to look at things in layers, and I don't think he is the greatest director of all time. I think he is a great director, but I do not believe that he is someone who can accurately communicate the nuances that we see in deeper character studies.
Right.
Well, here's my wrestling reference for the episode. I haven't had any in a while. They say that, when you compare Bret Hart to Shawn Michaels, they said Bret Hart had better matches, but Shawn Michaels had better performances.
Yeah.
I think that he has the best filmography of a director of all time, but that doesn't make him the best director of all time.
Interesting.
I think that, like, if you want to have a catalog of films that were knocked out of the park by popularity and financial success and critical success, nobody has done it better than him, but I don't think that makes him the best director of all time.
Yeah.
I think he's just worked on some of the best projects ever.
Well, how much does it matter, like, on the audience, though, too? I mean, a lot of his escapism in his films, you can classify most of his films as escapist in some way or another. A lot of people go to the movies for that. Like, a lot of people don't want to be challenged. They want, like, the explodey boom boom popcorn movie.
And that's fine. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think it depends on the audience, but then some people are more drawn to the historical works,
I just think that I think the term the best director of all time is fallacy.
Yeah,
I personally think that's like saying, okay, pick your favorite ice cream flavor. Everybody's got their own favorite. There is no one to rule them all.
This stuff is just subjective at the end of the day.
It is all subjective. So, like, personally, if we're going to really go down that path, like, I think probably Kubrick is better as a filmmaker than Spielberg is. If we're talking about
the process of filmmaking, Hitchcock's better. Yeah, we could do this all day.
But that's what I'm saying is to say he's the greatest director of all time. That's bullshit. It's a bullshit argument.
Yeah.
There are great directors, period. Is Spielberg a great director? Yes, I do think he is. He is responsible for a lot of the movies that have shaped our pop culture. You cannot deny that. But do I think that he is a master of telling complex, nuanced stories with character studies? No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't think he is. I think he is good at getting the surface level stuff. I think he is good at even getting one level underneath that. But I don't think that he is someone, as I said, Kubrick and Hitchcock, they were able to really give you deep character studies of people.
Bogdanovich,
exactly.
Or an amazing filmmaker like Jean-Luc Godard. And Brian, you're in good company, because he say that he believes that Spielberg is partly responsible for the lack of artistic merit in mainstream cinema.
Yikes!
And accused Spielberg.
Wasn't Godard in one of his movies?
Maybe.
I think Godard was in Close Encounters.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I think he was.
Shit all over him anyways. And he accuses Spielberg of using his film Schindler's List to make a profit off of tragedy, while Schindler's wife, Emily Schindler, lives in poverty in Argentina.
Oh, wow.
I did not know that.
So, yeah.
I didn't either.
He had a lot of harsh say. And I mean, I think to his point, Jaws and Star Wars kind of brought forth, like, here's the blockbuster movie, so say goodbye to the art house movie
That's true.
movement,
And
I think we've made that.
way.
I think we've made that point before.
Yeah,
is that pretty much with Jaws? That killed the independent movement of films. You had Easy Rider and you had all these other films that came out in the 60s and 70s, and once Jaws kind of hit and blew up, it just knocked out of the water. Everyone was waiting for the next big blockbuster movie,
right?
Which was Star Wars.
Yeah,
So I think it's worth looking at it from that prism. Is that Steven Spielberg is kind of responsible for the downfall of the art house film,
right?
At least it's in its popularity.
Yeah. Well,
where do you guys put? Because he wants to be remembered for E.T. and Schindler's List. By the way, that's
interesting.
Now,
okay.
Where do you guys put Spielberg in terms of the annals of his, like, your personal liking and in his part in history?
I think he has his niche. I think he has, shown what his point of view is. And do we need to see that anymore? Maybe not.
I think he should retire.
Has he created some valuable things that I'm glad were created? Of course.
Because his next two movies are West Side Story and Indiana Jones 5. So,
no,
don't do it, Steven. Don't do it.
bail out on
Did
both.
you not learn from Crystal fucking Skull?
He did not.
I'm more upset about West Side Story. Does we really need Steven Spielberg to redo that movie? A man who's never worked in Broadway.
Yeah, or I mean, I don't. Do we need a white guy to tell that story? Like, give me a break.
Well, I mean, half the people in the movie are white.
Now we didn't really talk about this too much. We didn't mention Steven's hatred, if you will,
Of
Netflix and
Well, we
Amazon.
talked about that a
and-
little bit, right?
Yeah.
We talked
No,
about that
not
previously.
really. Not really.
Did we?
I don't
thought
think we did. But do we want to mention a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, he's an old school snob. You know, it was one of those things
Yeah.
that, you know, he grew up in an era where TV was meh and, you know, and and there was no internet. So if you wanted to see something of value, you had to go to the cinema. You know,
Right,
and
right.
so to him, if you make a movie, it's supposed to play in, depending on your level of popularity, 800 to 8,000 theaters, you know, depending on if it's a small independent movie or a Marvel movie or something. And that's, you know, in a place for however many weeks you can get, 4, 5, 6, whatever, how many weeks. And that is how the movie is shown. And that's a real movie. If your movie's on Netflix or it's on Amazon, you know, or it's, you know, then you should be winning the Emmys because you're not a real movie because you didn't play in a movie theater with my movie Ready Player One. Or its sequel,
Apparently.
Ready Player 2.
I mean, I would say that is a old ass and snobbish way of thinking.
Because he's in his 70s and the
Agreed.
world is changing around him.
And truth be told, has anyone seen the cost of a movie theater ticket nowadays?
Yeah, right.
So
Plus you're sitting
that's
around
also
idiots.
an
Yeah.
elitist form of thinking too.
It is.
You know that everybody has the money to spend on a movie theater ticket.
Or it would
Multiple.
It might be ruined. I went to see Toy Story 4, and this one woman's phone went off 3 fucking times, including during the dramatic climax
Did
of the
she
movie.
answer it?
No, she
Okay.
turned it off. But I think I
Why
won't
wouldn't
ruin...
you turn it silent after the first time? What a
Because she
piece
doesn't
of-
know how to turn it off.
What a piece of garbage. Oh, I
I
hate
think
That's
it's
when
people
you
who do
take her
that.
phone and just throw it.
It was the
hate
dramatic
people who do
crux,
that.
crux of the movie. I was practically in tears. Toy Story 4 was a good movie. But like right at that moment, you hear boop, boop, doop, boop, 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 boop. It's like, turn your fucking phone off. So,
Well,
yeah, audiences can ruin it, too.
I also don't get me wrong. I think seeing a movie in the theater is the best way to see it.
I agree, yeah.
But at the same time, you have to understand that the technology is there to assist a filmmaker to reach so many more people. There is no way that a filmmaker would be able to, get into a theater in Los Angeles, get into a theater in New York, to be able to qualify. Just not even just to be able to nominate, but just to qualify. The amount of money it takes to do that is ridiculous. Okay?
Yeah.
And even now it's hard to be able to sell a film like that with as much saturation as we have. So to hear this asshole come in and say, oh, yeah, your movie really isn't a movie unless it's playing in the theater.
It should be up for an Emmy.
It should be up for an Emmy. So fuck you.
Right.
I'm sorry. That right there shows me how old Steven Spielberg really is.
Agreed.
I mean, you know what's coming out soon, guys, is The Irishman, a Martin Scorsese movie starring De Niro and Pacino. It's coming out on fucking Netflix.
Yeah, well, some people are getting it.
Scorsese gets it, and he's, I think, older than Spielberg is.
And that's not to say that I don't think there are faults with Netflix and don't think there are faults with Amazon and all that. I do. I think that they are pretty much only catering to known bankable sources. They're not really expanding the reach of independent cinema.
Right.
They're just kind of redirecting what would have been going into theaters and now putting them onto Netflix and Hulu and Amazon. I don't think they're really helping indie filmmakers. I think they're just kind of coasting off of barely.
Well, we're going to reach an age where Netflix is only going to have their original content. They're going to lose everything. They're losing The Office. They're losing all the Disney stuff.
Well, they've lost a lot of money on original content. They have lost a lot of money.
Well, that's why they subtly raise prices because
Yes.
that's what I told you. Doing all this original content, they can't keep up because they don't have their own back catalog
because
like
they
the
know they're
Disney
gonna
app
lose
does,
everything.
you know?
Yeah. Because soon, Universal Studios is going to get their own thing, and Disney's going to get their own channel.
And then it's just fucking cable
It's
again,
cable.
but everything's
It's cable
online.
again,
It's so
yeah.
stupid.
Everything comes full circle.
Here's the thing. It's cable again, and then people are going to go back to pirating shit.
Yeah.
Because no one's going to spend money on Disney Plus if all they really want to watch is that one series that's original. Same thing with Hulu and all those things. Everyone's going to just be pirating shit again. So congratulations, fuckers. We're back to this stuff again. But
but I'm sorry, Steven. In my 2018 list of best movies of the year, Ready Player One A wasn't on it. But B, I think my third favorite film of the year was Roma, which came out.
A Netflix film.
Yeah.
Netflix.
Sure.
And the thing is, that was not a made-for-TV movie, which is what you're trying to claim it should be under. And you can kiss my butt. That is not a made-for-TV movie. And there are other platforms you can see movies now, Steve.
this is just an old man yelling at young people.
Yeah.
It's true.
When honestly, what he should be doing is mentoring. He should be mentoring and encouraging young filmmakers. He shouldn't be chastising them because they serve as a threat. You know what that sounds like to me, Steven? You know what that sounds like to me, Steven? Okay, that sounds like the old assholes that you worked with in the 70s,
right?
Who
When
hated
you
your
were
fucking
20.
guts
Yeah.
because they viewed you as some young little punk.
You
okay?
either die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah, so that's what this all feels to me.
We also
We're
that
full circle, motherfuckers.
We also had that George Lucas quote where he's like, special effects are only there to progress the story and nothing more. And if you rely too much on special effects, your movie won't be anything. That's so laughable. It's so laughable
really
now.
I mean,
bad.
that's a true thing. What he said is a true thing.
Yeah.
Now he's a joke.
Yeah. Because he has two people talking in a room and has to be on a green screen. Yeah. But Brian, where do you put Spielberg in your annals?
In my annals?
In your deep inside
My cockles?
your annals, yeah. In your cock and annal.
Oh my!
As I said, I believe that his contribution to the zeitgeist and the pop culture that we exist cannot be ignored. I think that he has contributed a lot to cinema, but I think that you reach a point where you have to recognize that you're a roadblock and not a pathway. And I think he's coming to the point where, you know, when you're attacking and you're using your clout as someone in the academy who can basically make rules, and you're saying, nah, I don't really want you in my club, you know, that makes you a roadblock. You should be looking at it from the standpoint of, do you support filmmakers now and help them, or do you look out for yourself and hinder them? And that's where he's at now. And it's a shame, because I think that he has always been on the cusp of helping cinema. And now he's not. Now he's just hurting it.
Interesting.
I think he's always helped Hollywood, not cinema.
Yeah, that's a good distinction, John.
I
I agree with that.
His CGI did put a lot of practical effects people out of work. People like to forget that.
No.
He did put a lot of the practical people out of work because of Jurassic Park. Because everybody wanted to do it on the cheap. No one wanted to hire the practical effects artists.
Yeah, that's true, and that's
So-
what made the movie so good.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite Steven Spielberg movie? Lane, go.
Oh my god! Way to put me on the spot, brah. Jaws.
Brian, go.
I don't know. E.T. probably.
Mine, Saving Private Ryan.
All right.
All right.
Well, I think we have fully covered this man.
That was our exhaustive
It's
look
very
at
exhaustive.
Steven Spielberg.
You
Longest
stuck around
episode
with us.
ever.
Congratulations.
And I want to thank the audience for allowing us to go movie by movie, because like some of the movie makers we talk about are kind of out there in the spotlight, and we can say, but then they got arrested for DUI, or then they went crazy and like weren't wearing pants at the Oscars. Like Steven is a very like quiet man, so really his work is the only thing you can really talk about after a certain period of time.
True.
Yeah.
Wow. Lost Spielberg.
All right,
we can
well,
never
thanks
talk
to-
about Spielberg again, by the way.
I know, right?
No.
We just blew our
Thanks
whole
to anybody
Spielberg
who
load.
kept with us
Anytime
this
we mention like
long.
ET or Raiders, be like, just check our archives.
Just check our archives. So,
fair.
John, where can they find you on the Twitter machine?
The Unreal J Wolves.
Lane?
LA_Croft.
Find me at Brian Kindhouse on the Psycho Show page. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Psycho Show. You can also find us on the Epicast Network at epicastnetwork.com. If you have a favorite movie or question you want to throw away, you want to talk to us about your favorite Spielberg moments and how he may have helped you or scarred you for life, you can contact us at cinemapsychoshow.com. And make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, and we will see you next time.
Now stay tuned for Godard Burns Your Favorite Filmmakers.